My name is Anne Marie Angus, and I'm a member of the Building Strategies Planning Committee 2021. I'd like to thank you all who have taken the time out of your very busy schedules to keep engaging in self-improvement and the continued learning of best practices, also to have some fun along the way. And I'd also love to thank Maureen Ferguson for her expertise and guidance throughout the planning and rollout of this webinar. Thank you to Anita DePate, Jessica Farnham, and Susan Madden, co-members of the Building Strategies Committee, who brought their expertise and experiences to this effort. Welcome all to the last session of this 4-part webinar, JPP, Joy, Passion, Purpose, the Secret to Health, Resilience, and Longevity. I would like to introduce our speaker for this evening's session, Lisa Vasile. Lisa has vast experiences in OBGYN, primary care, and autoimmune disorders. She has taught on the faculty of UMass Grad School of Nursing, Mass College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences, Mass Bay Community College. She is a veteran, having served as an Army nurse during Desert Storm. Thank you, Lisa, for your service. She has a BS from Fitchburg State University, master's degree in nursing with a subspecialty in education from UMass Grad School of Nursing. She received her postmaster's certification in holistic health from the Institute of Integrative Nutrition. She continued studies through the School of Applied Functional Medicine and the Institute for Functional Medicine, offering her the training to create for better health and utilizing functional medicine with her patients. She is considered an expert on gluten by completing the Certified Gluten Practitioner certification, and also as a person with celiac herself. Lisa also mentors other practitioners who are motivated to learn and utilize functional medicine in their practice, and she does this through the For Better Health Practitioners Program and at the School of Applied Functional Medicine. All, please give a warm and joyful welcome to Lisa Vasile.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much, Anne Marie. I really appreciate it. I can't thank you enough. I'm going to, first of all, thank everybody for coming. It's 6 p.m. or later, 6:15 on a Thursday, and it's gorgeous here in New England anyway. And especially for inviting me to share this with you all. Anne Marie, Anita, and Maureen, I can't thank you enough. Ken, especially for that crazy introduction. I'm going to share my screen so that we can get a PowerPoint going for you all to watch. And I'm going to ask one of the panelists to tell me that I'm good to go with that and that you can see me, that you can see my screen.
You need to start it from the beginning to get a full screen.
All right, and thank you. How are you doing? Good? All right, yay. All right, everybody, let's jump in. So I was invited in to finish up this wonderful 4-part webinar series about the path through life as we need to do. We're the ones that are the caretakers. We're the ones that are the heavy hitters when it comes to healthcare. And most of us went in as nurses, case managers, social workers, you name it, to really be the one-on-one with the patients. And so that means that we kind of take some of that home, that we hold it in. And the fact that they're working with you to finish this up in this wonderful series to help you laugh and to help you sort of balance that all is more than impressive. And so let's go ahead and jump in. So this slide here is directly from the webinar write-up and what it included for your Stepping Stones series. And it did hit home, but at the same time, I'm going to try to incorporate lots of laughing. So hopefully you'll get a couple laughs as you go through my through the slide deck. And I've put a lot of little memes and little comics there for you, mostly because we all need to laugh. And you'll see by the end, this isn't just something that's just fluff. That laughing, joy, passion, purpose is all scientifically proven to balance the stress that really can make people unhealthy, not just unhappy, but unhealthy. A little bit about me, a little more than Ken had mentioned. As he said, this is me. Health has been a passion for me forever, but so isn't laughing. And you kind of heard all of the other things that he mentioned. I'm married for almost 30 years. I have a 25-year-old and two 20-year-olds. And those are my passion first. And then, medicine, health, sharing the idea that, just because we get older doesn't mean we break down, and that everything can't be blamed on being a chick or getting older. So you'll hear me say that a couple times. Educating in the community, educating it within different arenas in the medical field and also in functional medicine has been a huge passion of mine. So this kind of thing is really just kind of strives me or really feeds me. My dad it gave me the definition when I was younger because he told me that I was considered what he would say I was a smart, and he said, you know what that is? And I said, because I'm being fresh. And he said, no, because the actual definition of that is someone that can sit on ice cream and tell you what flavor it is. So I'm starting it off to tell you that this isn't something that I grew up with this. I grew up with, if you don't have a sense of humor, you're not going to be able to get to the next point in your day, in your life, and you're going to have no resilience. So my resilience is balanced with the passion that drives me. So this is my family. And you can see that there's quite a few different medical diagnoses within the picture. And so you'll see my gorgeous mama in the top left. That was only about 4 years prior to the one in the middle with the heart, the bottom left in the heart. That's me and her in the middle. She had this crazy dementia, this crazy aggressive frontal temporal lobe dementia that took her from being 6 feet tall, regal, gorgeous, zero medical conditions, no medicines, working out, and so funny, and she used to tell us all the time that she got wittiest as her high school in the yearbook. And so all of us were like, okay, we'll try to keep up with you, Mom. So yeah, to this person that was a vegetable. And, it was a wake up call to, here's this person that's been healthy her whole life. And I have all of these other little things. And as a practitioner, to not be able to give her or my family in some of these other cases a way out. And so in this picture, 3 people are now gone. And it always chokes me up, because medicine is so good at acute care. It helps us to survive at some level, but there isn't a lot of thriving, and it just doesn't give you the other, like, what else is out there? There's something missing besides here's a pill for the ill, and the trajectory of disease. And so that's kind of where I keep my foot in the traditional model, but I'm in this other place of what else can we do, because there's something else missing. There's other things that are imbalanced. And so as we move forward, we'll talk about that. Now, we all know that it's been a heck of a year and that no matter what you do in healthcare, yeah, we all need whatever this moisturizer is. And hopefully after this, you're going to have a couple more cracks, or hopefully you'll be laughing the whole time. The presentation itself, the description is here. I believe that this was posted online, and I don't wish to, waste your time to go through it all. But basically the whole thing is that we need to have the whole snippet, if we don't have joy, passion, and purpose, we don't have that quality of life. We don't have anything to balance how difficult the day-to-day is, and to the difference between what we have in our life as practitioners versus what others may have, right? That normal person day versus what what we might be experiencing on a regular basis. And if this doesn't resonate, I don't know, it did for me, and for sure, hopefully for many of you. Hopefully the bottom right emoji actually is helping or is happening for some of you, because I know that that's one thing that goes out the window as well when we're super stressed, is that sleep. The objectives are here for you, understanding the research supporting what I'm going to talk about, being able to describe the pathophysiology of what I'm going to talk about, and also being inspired with a shift to not only accept it as an important piece of healthcare and self-preservation and joy and self-care, but also to celebrate it, that it's not fluff, and to support others who are doing the same. And let's see, that's, yeah. So if those of you that are nurses, I can also say when you're listening to lungs and you tell them to take, take a deep breath, and you go to listen to their lungs and they don't breathe out. I don't know. Please tell me that happens to you too. And I have to say, okay, you can breathe out. I didn't mean to like hold your breath. So the humor piece, who knew that there was more than one type of laughter, and that in order for us to actually change some of what's going on in our body, whether it be the biophysical, biologic, neurotransmitter, cardiovascular, everything else I'm talking about, that there actually is a form of what they call mirthful laughter with research studies, to the point where it has been over and over again just defined in some of these studies that will show complete changes in human growth hormone, and I'll get into those as we go along. So this might resonate with some of you here, especially now that we're in, hopefully most of us are getting the vaccine is up and running, but some of us are still doing the testing, and I thought this was quite apropos. So the brain itself, let's talk about that first. Laughing in the brain. The brain does not have a single emotional center. It has different emotions involving different structures. So the frontal lobe versus other parts of the lobe monitor the actual emotional state. And while the thalamus, the information center, is actually participating in the emotional responses that are executed, which means that in order for the frontal lobe to actually communicate with the body, it needs to actually be triggered, which is actually kind of important. When we go back to my mom, it was actually called frontal temporal lobe dementia. And she lost all ability to receive and to have that emotion. There was like that lack of connection. That's the frontal lobe. Joy is felt by the dopamine and the serotonin. I'm going to get into the neurotransmitters as we go along. And so many of us believe that neurotransmitters are just something that makes in the brain. And that's true, but it also is made in the gut. And I'm going to talk to you about that as well. So when you see something that you perceive as happy, the brain actually signals a completely different response in the central nervous system. And that doesn't have to be even something that's true. So in other words, if you were looking at a phone and you saw for like something's not really funny, or if you saw someone do something funny, that is actually released within the spinal cord and within the brain. And the circulatory system is next. The anger and stress that the body has actually releases stress hormones. So if you are looking at not just adrenaline, norepinephrine, cortisol, which are hormones, you're also looking at how does that affect the actual circulatory system. So when you think of people, you've heard of people saying that they got stressed out and they had a heart attack. So that kind of goes along with this kind of a story where they've actually done research to show that when people have watched funny movies, that their levels of these hormones have completely shifted. and that the brain MRIs have completely changed. So the type of what's going on in the brain, what's happening, lighting up in the brain, the blood pressure, the vasculature, how quickly or how slowly, how receptive the actual vessels are, is completely different. Too much cortisol, in other words, if you're not balancing that, it actually will suppress how the immune system works, and it will increase blood pressure, blood sugar, which is your glucose, and as you know, produces a whole bunch of other things that are listed here. You know, sleep is interrupted, acne, brain fog, which many of us can attest to, and of course, who's going to want to talk about, you know, intimacy when you're stressed out. So when we're looking at this, it's not just, there's no fluff here. This is total science. It's hormonal, it's endocrine, it's cardiovascular, and it's neurotransmitters. When we're looking at it actually reducing stress hormones, it's statistically by 40 to 70%. So laughing increases the blood flow by about 22% and increases the beta endorphins, which are the ones that actually trigger all of those those alleviate depression hormones by 27 to 87%. And so that's, you know, huge science. The actual epithelium, which is the first line of defense within that cardiovascular tunnel, if you think of it, you know, you've got this clean, nice tunnel, you don't want scratches in it. The more scratches, the higher the risk of things being formed in there called plaque. So we want that first line of defense to be really healthy. And so we know that laughing can be important to actually maintain that healthy endothelial, excuse me. And then the inflammation for the stress hormones is huge, right? So we know that we're not just balancing the ability to feel better, but we're actually looking at reducing inflammation within the body. So in functional medicine, when we're looking through the functional medicine lens, we call it, everything is stemmed through inflammation. That can be a skin condition, that can be brain fog, joint pain, it can be GI upset, it could be cardiovascular conditions, dementia. In fact, when I went and saw functional medicine and was introduced to myself, I was telling her my family history, and she said, this physician, she said, just so you know, dementia is an inflammatory condition. And I was like, okay, why doesn't traditional medicine talk about this? So when we're looking at reducing inflammation, anything that we can do, including lowering that stress hormone, is huge. And it's, again, scientifically shown to really reduce here. So to break from the stress, this is where we can all kind of giggle about the last year of us wearing our masks. And then we have the nervous system, autonomic nervous system. It works automatically. Then you have sympathetic nervous system, which is where more of the response, it's responding to something. And so when you're looking at the autonomic nervous system, the cortisol can control that or not control it. So you're thinking about your blood pressure, your heart rate, things like breathing, even digestion. Then you're looking at your sympathetic and parasympathetic, which are more of the stress or relax. And then there's the enteric, which is where people say the second brain, which is in the gut. And I always tell people that you're looking at, you know, people don't realize neurotransmitters are actually receptors are in the gut and made in the gut. And so when we're looking at, oh, every time I get nervous, I have, you know, belly aches or diarrhea. And some of that comes from this enteric nervous system response, upregulated by all of these other neurotransmitters and everything else. So this next slide actually shows that parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system discussion, that whole what is stress versus what is peaceful. So I use the stress and P, the S and the P, to kind of help people remember which is which. And you can see here the difference between what's happening in our entire system under stress. It's imperative that if we don't counteract it and calm down that sympathetic nervous system, and we're living, most of us in the last year, in a sympathetic state for most of the time. And unless you're constantly looking at how can I counteract that, and you're going for a walk, you're purposely, laughing, you're purposely being with the people that you could be with, even if it's through Zoom, you're not able to get to that peaceful, and you're not balancing, and that's upregulating inflammation. That's upregulating all these things that I was just talking about. And we also don't look at disease as a disease. We look at it as dis-ease, which promotes disease. So if there's dis-ease or imbalance within the body, autonomic nervous system, immunity, the gut, which is that microbiome metabolism, all of those good bacteria in the gut, looking at our ability to export toxins that we're supposed to be able to do on a regular basis through bowel and bladder, liver, and that's through bleeding and also breathing and sweating. If we're not doing those things on purpose and moving, purpose, as joy, passion, and purpose, we're going to have that whole sympathetic imbalancement. In every single arena, both capabilities are critical for optimal health, and without them, then we have this imbalance that as I keep saying, needs to be actually escorted out, so to speak. And we look at optimal health as maximizing, minimizing, and prioritizing. What can you do to make things better and work to bring more of? What can you do to bring less of, and what can you prioritize? And I will say that the biggest issue that many of us have in healthcare, many of us that have when we're taking care of others, whether that be at work, whether that be your colleagues, a lot of your cases, because you're managing all these these huge cases with some of them devastating stories. And then you're also looking at, you're coming home, right? So you've got whether it be your immediate family within their house, you've got in-laws, you've got kids that are out of the house, family members that this has been a out of control type of experience, and prioritizing self-healing, the environment, what can you do? It needs to be front, even if it's only 15 minutes a day. So when you don't do that, depending upon how long you're in medicine or within the social worker arena, this is what happens. So we want to make sure that doesn't happen to us. I referenced the microbiome a couple slides ago, and I don't know how many of you out there have heard of it, but the microbiome, you might have heard about probiotics. So the microbiome is a living being, community of what we would call bacteria in a science word, that requires life to survive. So they use us to survive, but we actually rely on them for immunity. And that is within the gut, it's within our skin, it's the bacteria that lives within us and on us. NIH has been doing a humongous study they have a whole microbiome project website. It's been going on for probably about 20 years, but really tons and tons of information that's been put in and money put into this research over the last 10 years. And basically the bottom line, if we don't support what we put in our mouth, in our body, and that we're not going to the bathroom on a regular basis, or for that matter, going too much, we're not supporting the bacteria, the microbiome, the community that serves us. So people don't know this, but the mouth to the bottom, through the rectum, is a tunnel. And if you think about, for those of us that are in Massachusetts, that you go from, wherever you are through the tunnel to get to the airport to fly out of Logan. And especially if you're on, I'm in the western part, in Worcester area. So if you're going through that tunnel and there's a crack, well, obviously that's a big deal, right? That's dangerous. Think about what might be going on the other side of that tunnel. I like to think of it like a tunnel, and on the other side of the tunnel is this big cushion, like a sponge, and we're supposed to be able to get our nutrients in and out, but there shouldn't be anything going outside that sponge that is inappropriate to our immune system, because the immune system is right outside of our stomach, gut lining. So that would be like opening the door and having whoever was outside the door come in. It could be, it could be skunk. It could be somebody who wants to take all of your belongings. It could be a small child who won't stop crying. Whatever things there might be that you may or may not want in your home, then you need to have buffer, so to speak. You want the fresh air. So if you think about it like, oh, it's a gorgeous day, I'm going to open the window, I'm going to get some fresh air. That's beautiful. But you don't want to leave the window open because you don't know what kind of mosquitoes there might come in. So think about that back and forth between you and the gut and the immune system. The immune system talks to the neurotransmitters. We're making neurotransmitters in our gut, and also talks to the brain. It talks to our skin. It talks to our digestion. And so some people are like, oh, it's just who I am. I go to the bathroom twice a week, or I just go to the bathroom 6 times a day. It's just who I am. And the doctor says everything's fine. They might also talk about their, digestion as bloating or heartburn. For me, this is sort of a driver of, if there's something going on here, you need to pay attention to it. And we know that this gut health bacteria is going to shift. This is just talking about, depression as one example of what's happening with the microbiome when people have an unmet and disordered microbiome, that depression can actually be worse. And we know over the last year, that's probably going to be much bigger just because of everything that's gone on in the last year with isolation and fear and work related stressors. And so when I look at, I got to put something poop in there. So when I look at the microbiome, I'm looking at the gut as the second brain, and being able to make sure that, even though we giggle about it, that it is important to make sure that we're building everything that we need for the brain gut axis. And as I mentioned a couple times, that enteric nervous system that I referenced, these neurotransmitters are known to influence the intestinal function, but also our mood, our behavior, our skin, etc. 80 to 90%, people don't know this, 80 to 90% of the serotonin that we manufacture is made in the cells of our gut. And so these are the same substances that communicate, like dopamine, our Zen neurotransmitters called GABA. Any of those neurotransmitters aren't just made in the brain. So without many people knowing this, we actually make neurotransmitters through food, starting with protein. You put it in your mouth, you chew it. Hopefully, most of us don't do enough of that. After you chew it, it goes into your stomach. The stomach then breaks it down through a process of, if you think of it like a NutriBullet spinning, and also adding digestive enzymes. So you've got your stomach acid, digestive enzymes, there's some spinning. Problem is, many of us don't chew enough, and we're eating foods that may or may not be the easiest to digest, or they might have a lot of chemicals. They might be a lot of fast food because we're on the run, that kind of thing. But then that goes into the small intestine, and that's where we make a lot of our neurotransmitters, or we support our microbiome. And if we don't support the microbiome well, then we're working at increasing something with cytokine activity, which I like to think of as like the fighters, like sort of the first attenders that come to, a house fire or something, where they're calming things down. So it isn't just fluff. It is all about, what can I put in that will help to nourish my gut? What can I put in that will not take away some of the healthy bacteria? And, certainly we're washing our hands and using hand sanitizer a ton, but what can I do to nourish that? And so what I would recommend is, eating as good as you can, as often as you can. When I say good, I don't mean, perfect, but if you can eat things that actually, for instance, don't need a nutrition label. So, anything that's in the produce department, anything that's in the meat department, anything that's in that's grown, fish department, that's grown and served the way that nature made it, instead of a whole bunch of other ingredients. If you can do that a lot, and then when you don't do that, it's maybe a 90-10 rule, right? If you can look at the food that you're eating and say, oh, I know where this came from, I can recognize what it is without having to look at an ingredients label. And when you're looking at an ingredients label, how many ingredients does it have? If it has 50, maybe not. If it has 3 or 4, great. What's the first one? Is the first one sugar? Is the first one looking at, is it, a chemical that you can't pronounce? And if it is, then maybe look at something else. So doing that more often is going to serve this microbiome, eating foods that are prebiotic rich and probiotic rich. There was also, this recent study that showed that even with taking some people that have issues with a mood disorder and need a medication for that. This one is fluoxetine, which is also known as Prozac. That if the gut microbiome isn't healthy, that it actually reduces how well the Prozac can work. So it makes sense because that's where the neurotransmitters are made. So I'm not talking about this as a way for you guys to go in and be like, oh, what do I do with my patients or my case, my clients, but more so, how do we talk with people and within ourselves, right? Because that's what you're here for, and your colleagues and your family maybe, that can boost feeling better. And when you feel better, you're not as stressed. And when you're feeling better, the microbiome is going to release a better neurotransmitter, way less stress. And the less stress you have, the better you can build the microbiome. So the microbiome actually can be depleted just by stress. It's something called secretory IgA. And that can actually, if you measure someone that didn't have stress and someone that did, they did a study, the person that was added stress, it went down by like 50%. And I like to think of that as your golden retriever that barks in the front yard, so that it can tell you when someone's there. Well, we want that barker. We don't want him sleeping in the backyard, and we don't want turning him to Cujo either. And then there's the immune system. So stress hormones can suppress the immune system. They've actually done studies where it shows that people that have a more meaning, purpose-driven life, and people that have that joy, passion, and purpose that I'm talking about, those people that have the glass half full, those people have actually a favorable gene expression of whether or not they're going to turn on or turn off whatever their genes are. So we call that epigenetics. Epigenetics is, okay, everyone in my family dies by XYZ because they have XYZ. And so you don't have to wear those genes. See that little pun there? You don't have to wear those genes, but you can leave them off. Or if they're really good genes, you want to make sure they're turned on. And then this study in Scientific America showed that you can actually keep the good ones on and keep the other ones down just by stress reduction. And then this one, of course, hits home to me, things like caregiving. And for you guys, people that are doing all the caregiving, those people that are working in the healthcare field and in the middle of a pandemic, also people that are that sandwich generation, right? They got the kids, they got the parents, they're mixed between them. Maybe there's more than one sibling that's taking care of a parent and they may not get along, whatever it might be. It's talking about whether or not that's going to upregulate this T cell proliferation, which is a fighter in that immune system. Stress itself actually can upregulate all of these things that I've talked about. And they say that the study that I didn't quote the study here, I apologize. 1 minute of anger weakens the immune system for 4 to 5 hours. And 1 minute of laughter boosts the immune system for 24 hours. So hopefully you'll have a couple laughs tonight and it will last you at least 24 hours. But what I want you to walk away with is, I need to laugh every single day. I need to laugh every single day to keep me and my family healthy. And so, yeah, so some of us have been in this field for a couple minutes. Some of us have been in this field for a while, and whether or not we look like this, that's what I felt like some days. Redirecting stress. How do I do that? Because, today is 70 degrees in Massachusetts and tomorrow it's going to snow. And what are we going to do about that? The redirecting stress, minimizing that health, maximizing, that health, joy, passion, purpose actually leads to a longer longevity. And this is, again, by studies, looking at the studies. I'm going to leave this slide here for a little bit because there's a couple here that I think that you'll all resonate with. Yeah. The sense of humor one got me because some people in the same office can think something's super funny and something not so much. Stress reduction, how do you do it? Especially when you're so stressed out, and I know the whole time limited thing. So I'm not talking about, taking a day off every week, which would be great, but I'm talking about 10, 15 minutes a day purposefully. 30 minutes would be even better. So getting out in fresh air, moving, whether that be walking, hiking, biking, whatever it looks like for you. Some people want to do their Pilates or whatever it might be, but moving is huge. Funny movies, there's the TikTok that's free, there's memes, there's comedians. I would say, go to YouTube, comedian, find one you like, flag them, and so that when you're going on a walk, you can throw that on. Or when you're making dinner, you can throw that on so that you can kind of bounce off something that's funny as opposed to the evening news, which is anything but funny. Definitely not watching news if you have to, not watching things that are going to upset you. Not if someone says, oh my gosh, the other day I walked into work and it was this horrible story about the shooting in the mall, in the shopping store, the grocery store. And my admin started talking about, and I said, you know what? It sounds terrible. I do not want any details. It's terrible. I will think about them and I will say some prayers for their families, but I can't have those details because it just brings me to a place of insecurity, of fear, of anger, and it upregulates my sympathetic nervous system. And it's not discounting the fact that I don't want to know news. I just don't need to know all the details. I definitely don't need to see pictures. During the beginning of pandemic, when we were watching, my daughter was in New York City at the time, and she's in the heart of it all, and I'm watching these news stories of these big 18-wheeler bed trucks where they're putting bodies, and I couldn't watch it anymore. I mean, that's not serving anybody. And so not watching the news, listening to things that are going to pep you up. There's at the end, I actually will give you a couple slides of ideas for books and ideas for podcasts. Listening to meditations. Everyone's like, oh, I can't meditate. Neither can I. But what I can do is listen to a 5-minute or 10-minute, my favorite is Insight Timer. It's the first one listed there, that you can put on. You can go on it. You can actually choose a headphone. It says guided, so that you don't have to sit there and trying to ohm yourself. You will choose 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and it's a game changer. And then yoga poses, and even if you don't like yoga, or if you don't want to get into a child pose or a down dog, you can even do an opposite, which is laying on the floor with your bum against the floor, legs up the wall, and listen to one of the Insight Timer meditations, or listen to something funny. And this is something that is created, right? It's not something that you are used to doing. It's not. It seems like fluff. It seems like, oh, I don't have time for that. Everybody has 10 to 15 minutes. If we're removing ourselves from the habits of the day, and we're self-saving ourselves, that might mean getting up early. That might mean shutting your office door. That might mean walking out of the office and going into your car for a couple minutes. But being able to do that is huge. Creativity is good, painting by numbers, doing adult coloring books, all of these different things. Epsom salt baths, not only is it great because baths are always very relaxing, but Epsom salt is a magnesium, and magnesium goes through the skin. Your skin is like a big mouth, and so you can get it into all of your organs in less than 20-30 minutes, and it completely brings you down into that Zen, calming feeling. And add a little lavender for relaxation. You can listen to some music. Just don't bring in your iPhone, don't bring in your iPad, do not bring in work. That is a sacred place just for you in the bath, and a candle if you like, and music. The Qigong is awesome. You can do this at home. You can do it on YouTube. I put a tapping YouTube there too. I would check into this. Qigong itself is very similar to acupuncture. In fact, when my acupuncturist closed down in COVID, she actually sent out a bunch of Qigong videos for people to keep their body flowing. As they say, it's the Qi, which is your energies within the body. And those speak to everything that we've already talked about, including that cortisol upregulation of the cytokine activity, immune system, and everything else. Tapping, on the other hand, is more of a acupressure point behavior, where you're going around and you're actually saying, XYZ is stressing me out. And even though at the end, even though this is stressing me out, I am whatever. And you can watch this video here. Those of you that might be taking notes, one of my favorite is Nick Ortner. He has a whole website on thetappingsolution.com. And he, this is science. He was sent down to Sandy Hook down in Connecticut when everything happened. And I saw on Sunday morning, I love watching that show. They're actually, the kids that were in those classrooms, the teachers, the community are still doing tapping on a regular basis in those classes. So it has MRI research that changes the brain, brings you from a really high anxious state right down to a Zen state in about 5 to 8 minutes. It brings it, even if it's only 50% less. And then you can pay people with reflexology or acupuncture or Reiki to do the same, so that you can get yourself into a place of less anxiety, less stress, less cortisone, less sympathetic, and into that peaceful parasympathetic. Yes, so prior to the call, we were talking about not remembering where we put stickies. So I thought this little cell phone, how smart. If you just make your reminder word incorrect, you can put that in, your password. And then the purpose, again, I mean, that purpose, passion, that, that drive. I know anyone that's in the healthcare field like we are, you have a purpose, but there needs to be a little bit more than getting a paycheck. That purpose of changing lives, the purpose of what I'm doing now is trying to bring this functional medicine idea to the masses, trying to make people understand that, stress reduction is not a choice. It's a necessity. What you put in your mouth is a necessity. It's just not talked about in healthcare anywhere near enough. And looking at 7,000 adults over age 50, those that scored the highest on a scale of life purpose were those that had much lower overall health conditions. And then celebrating it. So one of the things that we don't do as a society is celebrate those people that are taking some time for themselves and taking that self-care, whether that be going for the walk or doing a meditation or separating themselves for a bath. It's one of those things that's like fluff. I hear it from women more than men, but also from men. I hear that if I get a chance. I hear it a lot, even in these Zooms, like they're home all day, they have their sneakers on and they never actually get out to walk. And that has happened to me. In fact, today, I almost didn't do it. My husband came home and said, you need to go outside. It's beautiful out. And, you got to get out there. You got to get out and make time for it. It's not selfish. It isn't pampering. The innuendos are leading to putting ourselves not on the priority list. If this was, you have to do it or you will get sick. We may or may not still do it, but if it was the child has to do it or they will get sick, us parents would be all over that. So we need to put ourselves in the same position. If we're telling our patients and our case clients that they need to shop here, they need to sign up for their social work thing, they need to get their insurance ready, they need to make sure that they're seeing this doctor and that doctor, make sure they pick up their prescriptions. All of those things are the same things we should be telling ourselves. And it does often happen that those that care for people are the worst patients, and because we're just putting ourselves last. Finding time for all of these things, because if you leave it for chance, it just likely won't happen. The percentage is much, much less. And happiness, that joy, that laughter, that making it, letting go of what you think life is supposed to be, and sort of, what do I have in front of me that is fabulous and golden. This is from my cousin's, this quote up here is from, it's a leprechaun homework assignment she had. It's my cousin's first grade daughter. It says, today I walked into my bedroom and found a leprechaun sitting on my bed. She had to finish the story. I told him to get out, but he didn't. He just handed me a pot. It was an empty pot. I looked into the pot and found something. It was a 4-leaf clover. Then I looked at the leprechaun, picked him up and threw him out the window along with his useless pot. Now he's my neighbor's problem. I couldn't stop laughing, so I had to put it in here. Because when you smile, your brain releases a tiny hormone called neuropeptides. Nothing works faster to do this than a laugh. And when you're feeling down, simply walking in nature, getting a kiss from a dog, yelling at your cat, which is what we do half the time, anything that's going to make you laugh. So I'm going to unseparate here because I need you guys to all hear this. So bear with me for 1 second. And
Lisa, no sound.
Oh no, don't tell me that. I'm sitting here enjoying it. Okay. So that's, all right, let me get out of here. Okay. So I'm so sorry. I was hoping that you'd be able to see that. So when can you, all right, hold on. All right, there you go. So what I'll do is I'll send that out. Can you send that out, Emery or Maureen, so that they can all enjoy it?
Yep, I can
Oh,
send it out.
please. It is on my phone. It is what we go to when we're stressed out. You cannot not laugh when you listen to it. And I tried to put it here, but it didn't hyperlink, even though I did. So I had it saved up. So my apologies, because it is funny. So as I said, these are the book recommendations for those of you that are book people. And again, how do you want to spend those 10, 15 minutes to kind of calm down, to redirect? Many of us in the healthcare field are using our downtime, myself included, to get caught up on podcasts that are medical, or get caught up functional medicine learning. For me, I might hear something about COVID I want to listen to. I might hear something about the vaccine I might want to listen to. I might hear something about a diagnosis, and I'm just so into that I found that serves me in my profession, but it doesn't serve me in self-care. So now it's a daily ritual. I get up, I make my coffee, feed the cats, do the litter, you know, that thing. And then I'm picking from a positivity book or a book that's going to be completely separate. And I do one chapter of that. And then I do a chapter of something that might be feeding me in a creative way. So that might be, you might be into knitting, or you might be into running or something like that. So it's 100% not related to anything. And it takes me about a half hour. So then there's another time of the day that I'm going and, you know, I might go for a walk, typically most days a 2 to 3 mile walk. And so in that, I'm usually pulling up one of my podcasts. And these are some of my favorites that I pull in. And it's, again, usually interviewing different people, and they're talking about, you know, things that are difficult, things that are fun. It might be sciencey. There's another one that I love called Unleashing Us by Brene Brown, if you haven't heard that one. They're all just great ways to reset that sympathetic nervous system while you're also walking. So this is the bibliography here. And then I believe, then the last section is just the post test. So you guys all have that. So if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer at this time. I don't know, Maureen, if there was anything posted.
Hi, Lisa. It's just one comment. Someone saying, hi, hello, Lisa.
Hello. No questions.
Oh. Yeah. No questions.
No? Well, if anyone has some questions, oh, looks like one just came in. Let me see if I can pull them up here. They say, let's see. Thank you for your service in the Army, Lisa.
Oh,
Very interesting and thought-provoking presentation. Love the humorous pictures. Ha ha ha. Great presentation. My coworkers just sent me the link to the laughing baby, and we are enjoying it.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
You have to have it on your phone. You have to.
I've seen that before, and it does. It does. But yeah, so we'll leave it open. Oh, just a couple more that are coming in. I work with persons with traumatic brain injury. Do you have any suggestions for helping with chronic depression that is prevalent at this time?
That's true. That's tough. You know, I actually did speak for TBI. I have a whole presentation. If that person wants to send me a link, I am more than happy to send the link that my old presentation. in a PDF form. And so basically it's food. Food is medicine. Increasing things like green leafy vegetables, all the colors, and making sure that their omegas are really high. So omega fish oils, there's been huge studies on like 5 to 6 grams of fish oils. But again, it would, couldn't speak to what that person can do. But in general, mental health, if we don't do some of this parasympathetic work, I can't tell you how many people will stand on the Mass Pike upside down naked before they'll take time to do stress reduction. They'll even remove everything and only eat ice. They'll take 75 supplements, but when it comes to stress reduction and putting it in on a daily basis, it's not incorporated, and we can't get better if we don't do it. You have to laugh.
Okay, I have some more. Great presentation, especially about the microbiome and how it connects to the brain. Love this. Time went by so fast. Thank you so much. Thank you for your presentation and your service.
Thank you.
Here's another one. Also, many of my clients are suffering from extreme isolation. Do you have suggestions?
Yes. So, it has to be one of those things where they're open to saying, I am feeling isolated. And who can they reach out to? It can be a friend, a relative. It can be, is there a group that they can join on a regular basis where there's something on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I do XYZ, right? And then there's so much online with these podcasts, because when you listen to the podcast, you feel like you're in a room with a couple of the people in a community having a conversation. So, directly saying on this day, I'm going to do XYZ. I had a couple people that were hugely isolated for health reasons. They couldn't go anywhere. And we made a plan of Monday, on the calendar, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, every day, she needed to put 3 things on the calendar that were going to be taking herself even virtually outside of the home, whether that be watching something that was a tour of a place she's never been, having a FaceTime or a Zoom with somebody, all of those things, 3 things a day, and we put it on the schedule for her. Tapping was huge, Qigong was huge, some of the yoga moves were big, really laughing. So it's one of the things that we just don't incorporate in. We grocery shop. A lot of times that is even, you grab what you can get, but you don't have a plan, right? So when I go to the grocery store, and not every single time, 100%, of course, but most of the time when I go, I won't even go into the store until I have a menu. So what am I going to have? Where am I going to be? Of course, in the last year, we haven't gone anywhere. So there's no games to go to or events to go to. So what am I going to have? And so that you have an idea of what you're going to make, so that you have the ingredients, and then you go into the store. And it's the same way when you're getting up in the morning. What is my day going to look like, and how am I going to incorporate that in?
I'm having trouble hearing you.
My phone, my wrist just talked to me.
Okay, a couple more comments. The past year has been challenging to find joy, but I'm feeling more hopeful. Thank you for very, very important suggestions and reminders.
That's great.
You are awesome sauce. Thanks so much. Is Tai Chi the equivalent of Qigong?
Qigong. It is, it's
Okay.
similar. Tai Chi is amazing too. And good catch on that. I did actually mean to put them sort of next to each other. Both of them are movements. So yes, very close and amazing.
Okay. Great presentation. Just what I needed after a long day. Thank you. And that's all I had right now.
Run.